My name is Jason Lichon. I'm with Blue Bolt.
My name is VanDamme. I'm with Nimble User. Nimble User is the manufacturer of Nimble AMS, which is an association management software package built on the Salesforce App Cloud.
So our session is going to straddle the concepts of big data and member engagement. So we're essentially going to be looking at measuring data, assessing data towards the goal of increasing member engagement. And Stig's got the first part of this.
So, I think the things that we just heard about, from Tom and from Sharon, those are the kind of buzzwords, and they're all so relevant. But so is member engagement, right? And member engagement is anybody here doing active member engagement, like tracking it and those type of things? Yeah, that's what I kind of see, even across our customer base to a degree. There's a group of customers that do it, but there's a large group of customers that don't. And engagement is really, tracking that investment that your members are making in your organization. And why is that important? Because what's one of the characteristics of somebody that's engaged? What does that mean to you? They're more likely to rejoin, keep going. They're more likely to go to events. They're more likely to tell somebody else about your association and recruit and maybe mentor. So it's extremely important. And across the journey, the goal really is, whether you're tracking it or not or however you're going, is to move somebody from taking things from the association to bringing things to the association. So you start off, maybe you're just cruising, I was a member of Apex. Back in the 80s, I worked in manufacturing in Eastman Kodak. The only reason I joined Apex was because I had to get certified. And I remember, we didn't have websites at the time, but I remember looking stuff up and trying to figure out what did I need. I was over here. I was taking. But I worked with a person who sat right next to me who was about my age now, in his 50s, and he was on the influencing side. And he was doing things completely different. So what we want to talk about is a little bit about how do we move people along that and how do we track that. So really it's, what are the things that we got to measure? Where are we going to put that stuff? And then how are we actually going to use that? A lot of times I think with this big data, I've working in association technology for years, and I know that a lot of data is being tracked, and often not a lot is being done with it. We always say, I want to take this, I want to track this, I want to do this, and then nothing really happens with it. So we really, what we're seeing with our customers is really like a cumulative type approach. Try to figure out, well, what are the characteristics of an engaged member? And I had that other slide up there. But obviously someone that's active on a board is more engaged than someone that used to be active on a board or is not a board at all. And same with event participation. Are they a conference speaker there? Are they just an attendee? Did they do something on more of a local or regional basis? Is less. And so you can kind of scale all the things that are the interactions that are taking place that make somebody either engaged or not engaged, and put them on a kind of a journey through that. And then really it's, how valuable is that? Is joining a committee worth 20 points? Maybe. Product purchase maybe is worth more. You need to figure that out. And that's really, this is the whole thing I'm going to get into, it's kind of an iterative approach. And it takes, really the technology is simple. It's the upfront work, figuring out what does make an engaged member. How do we weight that is more difficult. So maybe like if you're doing basic involvement, you're viewing a website, you've got a marketing automation package where you can track how many times they've viewed your website, maybe they're going to the Join Us page, all the way through to, geez, they're a true leader in an organization that's clearly worth more. And then you really need to say, well, how do we value that within those ranges? So someone that's highly involved in community participation is obviously worth more than someone that maybe just did some volunteering. You need to be able to present that. All the modern AMSs today really give good ways to present that. It's always great when someone is on the phone, you see a quick gauge of how involved is this member. Where are they on that journey? So I should be able to see right away, where are they on this journey? How did they get there? I think it's great. Our customers have told us that when I can see where someone is on that bar just by a phone call or on a mobile device, when I'm visiting them, that's extremely empowering. And then where to put it. Now, obviously, we sell an AMS system, so we're a little biased there. In a perfect world, you talk to any AMS vendor, we like everything in the AMS. And that is obviously the simplest and most ideal way, at least from my opinion. But you should be noted that the modern AMS today really, stresses. They look at it in a different way than maybe we have in the past. We look at it as part of your technology solar stack, and we need to be able to integrate and effectively get that information. A single repository is not necessarily necessary, and even like I used to work for Eastman Kodak. We use SAP. Our system's built on Salesforce. Salesforce now has something called Lightning Connect, which allows you to connect to other data sources and report on them as if they were the same data sources. So these enterprise technologies are coming in to make this maybe a little less of a requirement. So how do you get started with this? And we were out to dinner last night. And we're like, man, this is like 7-minute abs. Like, how are we gonna go through member engagement in 10 minutes? So I'm just gonna run through these very, very quickly. But obviously, you need to do some discovery. Amongst your staff, what is the most important? How are we going to weight that? And then really do a prototype. So run, you take an engaged member. Did they score greater than a none after you put all this together? If not, why? Maybe the formula's wrong, or maybe they really aren't that engaged. But really prototype that and validate it. And then I will tell you that every customer that we've had that's done this is constantly tinkering with it, because they're realizing maybe we're a little off because it's showing this person is highly engaged and this one not. Maybe it's the opposite. And start, we're a software company. We're very into agile. With anything else, start small, maybe one single score, and go from there. There's a lot of variance, particularly in trade associations. So, for example, is Walmart more engaged in the corner shop? Certainly, if you base it upon revenue, maybe they're really not. Maybe that person in the corner shop, that whole organization is more involved. So there needs to be ways to weight this. We've actually done it where there's been 2 engagement scores. And then watch out for some things like double dips. So, maybe I've attended 3 local events, or 2 people in my company have, and it gets rated a little higher than something else. Also, people can only go so high within one category. So if someone goes to 20 events, it doesn't really make them more involved than someone who went to 10 events necessarily. So how do you use this? What are some practical purposes that we've seen people use this for? Certainly, on the positive side, you can identify a rising star, someone that you want to groom on the fast track. This person looks like they could become part of this committee. They can move to here. It'll help you identify those individuals that could potentially be a future star. On the flip side, someone that's paying their dues on a regular basis and not doing anything may be at risk. I was at a customer of ours yesterday, the Economic Club of Chicago, and they were telling me that might not be the correct for them. They said that they've got a number of members who do sign up, and it's sort of like, man, this is great to have this on my resume. They go to a few things, and they keep paying their dues because it's important to be a member of the Economic Club of Chicago. So you have to also take a look at some of those things that might be anomalies within there. And then I know Blue Bolt does a lot of marketing automation. We automate with a variety of different systems. You can set, based upon their engagement levels, different member journeys. So the way that I sell to a highly engaged member is very, very different than the way that I sell to someone that's struggling. And it might even be that I'm contacting the very engaged member to therefore go to the non-engaged member in a mentorship or make a direct call. And those type of things are what we see that people can really use this for. So I did do that in 7 minutes.
Well, good for you. Well, I'll ask you a question. So what would you say when you talk to people about implementing an engagement measurement system? What are the big impediments that you come across? And are they more mental, or are they technical and systematic?
I think, I did talk to someone from our implementation team, and they said that some of the things that are challenging are some of the internal politics in an association. Someone says, this person went to the event and did all these different things, and someone that's in another situation says, well, yes, that's true, but they haven't sat on any committees or anything like this, and that's more valuable. So it's really, I think, like anything else, coming to a consensus on what that means to the organization as a whole. We're in this together. We're here to move the mission forward, and kind of setting those things aside. I think it might be more internal than anything. And again, the technology is rapidly becoming table stakes amongst ourselves and our competitors. So that's the easy part.
Are most AMS systems having functionality out of the box these days that have a spot for here's your engagement score?
It's getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. We used to sell it as a competitive advantage, but I think a lot of things.
Nimble's got it for sure.
I'll probably talk about it.
All right. Thanks. All right. So I'm going to talk about tuning your content for member engagement. So I was listening to Tom Morrison this morning. It was a great first way to kick off the day. How many people were scared by that? It was a subject in the restroom. It's like, boy, that was scary. And I think what's scary is he's talking about stuff coming out of left field, things that you're not looking for impacting your life and your business, your association. And what I'm going to look at today here is just a real simple way that maybe you can actually identify a blind spot, or at least look for lost opportunities for engaging your members, and of course related to content. So to engage your community, you've got to know what they have interest in. I think that's a chief goal of a lot of membership associations, is to provide content that helps people further their careers or their avocation. In the pre-digital days, before websites and emails and so on, we had somewhat limited ways, I think, to understand what your members were looking for. Obviously, there's the in-person ad hoc meetings that you have, and you can literally ask people, what sort of content do you need? You can measure things like your subscriptions for your magazines, of course, your membership rate, is it going up or down? And that might tell you about the content you're producing, your attendance at events, and so on. And of course, you can try surveys. The last speaker mentioned how many of you are trying surveys. How difficult is it to get people to answer surveys? So I've got a way around that, and we'll talk about it in just a second. So technology, in the digital world now, we've got new ways of assessing our content strategies. So most of these things that we're talking about on this slide, you're probably doing. You've got Google Analytics set up. Hopefully you look at it now and again. Hopefully you look at it and actually let that impact your content generation strategy. So we noticed, hey, this content seems to be getting a lot of views. Maybe we should produce more of that content. That subject matter is really interesting. Boy, we put a video on the site and people watched it. We should produce more videos. All of these analytic tools are good for telling you, for assessing the content that you have. But what about the content that you're missing? And how do you measure what's not there? So we can skip the show of hands. So yeah, the missing content. And I think the answer, before we get to the answer, is just an example here. So we had Italian last night. So I use that for an example. So if you're a small Italian restaurant, you've got a website, here's my menu online. So I've got everything covered. If you're looking for Italian, I got your pasta with meatballs, pasta primavera, tomato with basil sauce. But what if the person, your potential customer, is looking for chow mein? It's noodles, right? But it's not quite the Italian noodles. So what's your chow mein, I guess? If we talk about what's your Uber, what's the missing content that you've got? Now, maybe this is extreme. Maybe it's more about your people walking into this restaurant are trending more vegetarian. We've got pasta primavera, but maybe we need the mushroom sauce. Maybe we need more options for these vegetarian consumers. So if all you got is a menu, what's the feedback mechanism? We can try the surveys, but we talked about that. That doesn't really work real well. But you've got a mechanism on your site probably already. And I think that site search is the missing link there, the missing clue. And to be clear, I'm not talking about SEO. I'm not talking about Google. I'm talking about Google Analytics to a certain extent. We'll talk more about that in a second. But I'm talking about the search box on your site. I think that has a lot of benefit if you know where to look in terms of the analytics for that. Google Analytics actually has a section of their report dedicated to site search. And I want to dig into that a little bit and talk about what that can tell you. From my standpoint, this is just your free 24/7, always on survey that your users are coming to your site and literally typing in, this is what I want. So I think you should pay attention to that. It's not only a search box, it's a suggestion box. All right, so here's the section on Google Analytics where they actually talk about site search. Let's take a look at a couple points here. Search exits. This is measuring the people that came to your site and left from the search results page. And so why is that important? So if someone got to your search results page and that was the last page they saw, what does that tell you? They didn't find what they were looking for. Now, I can't tell you what that number should be, or if 35% is high or not. It's going to vary by every site, every industry, but you certainly would like to see that number going down, not up. So if you want to look into say, well, what's going on that page, the next place to look is perhaps the search terms. So this is this is showing us the top 9 search terms. This is a site that sells music and audio equipment. Bob Dylan was the #1 search. So if you're concerned, is my search exit rate too high, start going to your site and plugging these top terms in. Particularly if you've got some of the top ones are 5%, 10%, something like that. And of course, you're going to have clusters, Bob Dylan, just Dylan, et cetera. You'll have to sort of figure that out. But go to your site, search for these things, and find out, are you finding what you're looking for? Or is there simply no Bob Dylan on your site? So there's a couple of potentials, things
You have
going
to go
on.
get them and put them on your site?
Yeah, right. Well, maybe. Yeah, you're a missing opportunity. If people coming, for whatever reason, people are coming to your site searching for content that you don't have, I guess you can say, well, we don't sell chow mein, or you can look at it as a business opportunity, or at least, at the very least, you want to know it tells you something about what's going on in your community. Another interesting point on this, this is the overview of your site search on Google Analytics, is this little pie chart. This is showing you the percentage of visits to your site of people that use the search tool. So in this case, it's 12.2% versus 87% didn't touch search. This tells you how important search is. What we find, we implement CMS systems, and we actually have a search practice as well, but we find that a lot of companies, organizations implement a website and search is the afterthought. Hey, we've spent a lot of time looking into a CMS system, we turn the search on, and however it works, it works. We just made sure that we typed something in and we got some results, but we didn't pay a lot of attention. Well, depending upon the amount of traffic that you have that's using your search, maybe you need to really invest more in it. Because if 20-30% of your users are using search, skipping your menu, then you got to react to your user and understand what it is that they're trying to pay attention to. So potential issues here, if your search exits are high, one could be you've got the content, but your search engine isn't leading people to it. So a couple issues there could be that it's not indexing all the content. So maybe a lot of the search terms they're looking for are buried in PDFs, and your search index or your search engine isn't indexing PDFs. So that's a potential
Even
problem.
more, I think what we've done some jobs together, and one of the things that I think that we're finding very, very important is where is that information? So it may not be in the CMS, right? It may be in the LMS. It may be in the AMS. So if I search for, T-shirt, I should get a blog from the CMS on T-shirt. I should get a product that the association called T-shirt, and I should get a learning, an LMS entry that says here's a video on how to do a T-shirt. And so how do you federate that search, bring that together so that someone doesn't get frustrated and just leave?
Right. So you might have the content, but the search engine's not finding it, or perhaps your engine doesn't handle language well. So someone didn't type the plural version of a word, and so therefore that content went unfound. So those are both problems of you've got the content, but it's not being matched up. The third bullet there is the missing content. That's the thing out of left field that you don't know. Something happening in your industry that your users are very concerned with, that you're behind the curve and you haven't created content to address yet. So that's where they're going through those search terms and looking through that and saying, well, geez, people are searching for Bob Dylan on my site, and we're medical. So how does that come out? There may be some extra work that needs some extra configuration that needs to happen on your platform or CMS to get that report to work properly, but it's not hard. Yeah, with your website, that should be doable without too much effort. So you may just need to go through a little bit of extra work to get that analytics report to show properly. So I think we're at the end here. Takeaways. I think it's very important to understand what content your members want and need, and your search box is what's going to tell you. People are literally typing it in, so you should pay attention. And this is how you find out if you're missing opportunities to create a whole new level of content or a different kind of content. If people are typing in videos, well then you better...
Sofa versus couch. I'm trying to, the same thing. Typically these new CMSs have cinnamon director, I can't even say that.
Cinnamon director?
I'm thinking about that French toast this morning.
Okay.
And I'm not going to try to say it again. So, but you know, they have words meaning the same thing.
Synonyms, we call those.
Yes. But they have a variety of techniques like that. That you know, when you start seeing things like that, where you sell couches, or and someone types in the word sofa, or someone uses a medical term versus a different medical term, and they mean the same thing, and you're not bringing it up because that's not part of the native content that's there. There's a whole raft of little nuances like that I think really make a difference. And I've noticed just in search in general, so we're a huge Google app shop, and they just went with natural searches within that. I never think of where I put anything. I do everything on a search. Mm-hmm. And as millennials come in and everything else like that, they're not in tune to going, I got to go to the LMS to search for the course.
Right.
They're going to go to the website. They want to find it right then and there.
So users are expecting you to search, and we're
Second
8
buzz?
seconds, 9 seconds. It's going up.
Oh, now we're going back up.
Okay. So I think that's it for our what we've got for you. So thanks very much, and on to the next.